Hey everybody, welcome back to The Loop. Today we are continuing to look at the disaster that was created when Abram and Sarai took matters into their own hands rather than trusting in God to build their family. As you know by now, Sarai suggested that Abram sleep with her slave. Now fellas, let me just say, if your wife ever encourages you to sleep with another woman, that is always a terrible idea. Don't you dare do it. Now, the scary part of this situation is that this idea, it actually made sense to her. She reasoned to herself, if I can't have kids of my own, then maybe I can build a family through my slave. And that's the problem. Instead of talking things out with God, she sat and she reasoned by herself. Listen, you can talk yourself into all kinds of bad ideas if you reason with yourself. This was a really bad idea. If you look specifically in verses 4 and 5, you will see that in the aftermath of this decision, every relationship was ruined. In verse 4, we're told that he slept with Hagar and she conceived. When she knew she was pregnant, she began to despise her mistress. Then Sarai said to Abram, "You are responsible for the wrong I am suffering. I put my slave in your arms, and now that she knows she is pregnant, she despises me." I want you to think about this. Hagar despised Sarai. Sarai despised Abram. Sarah was blaming God. It was a royal mess. Eventually, the kid that they thought they wanted comes along, and even that was a disaster. In verses 11 and 12, God told Hagar, "You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard your misery. He will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." Now, when I read that, I think that's sad, but I also think it's understandable. How else should we expect the kid to respond when he's born into a family that doesn't really want him or may even despise him? The situation was a living nightmare for all of them, which brings me to my final point today. Be careful what you ask for. When we get impatient, when we take matters into our own hands, when we get impatient with God and insist on getting our way, we may end up getting what we want. But in hindsight, we may realize that we never really wanted it in the first place. This is why, in the midst of your frustration and disappointment, you have to trust God. Believe that He is good, especially when you don't understand.